Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Do you know what Barack Obama calls lunch with a convicted felon? A fundraiser. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Tuesday, October the 29th. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Great big tire sale going on right now. Stop in. Along with some of our great advertisers, and they include, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and also Western Waste Services. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage. Call 734-6969. Without any more to say at this juncture, we look over to the foggy conditions of our headquarters of KBAR, and inside, a beam of light. Here's Gina Jameson.
A beam of light?
Yes.
You sure, like, I don't cast a dark shadow or something? It is the shadow.
Hey, by the way...
I need to work on that stuff, too.
Yeah, for Thursday, we got to have some fun. Okay.
You got it.
How are you?
I'm doing well. It was an early morning.
Why?
I was up at 4. I'm never up at 4, but I was up at 4.
You know, I think I ought to do a service to you, and every morning when Deanna and I get up, we'll just call to make sure you're enjoying the same amount of day that we are.
No, I will not answer the call. I will block your call if you do.
You know, and I'm not in a very good mood this morning because I'm injured.
You're injured?
Yes.
Like physically injured?
Well, you've been in my house.
And emotionally injured?
Well, you've been in my house.
Yes, I have.
You know where my pellet stove is?
Oh, you injured your foot.
Yeah, there's this about a half or 3/4 of an inch raise, you know, with that stone that's built around the floor there for the pellet stove.
And you stubbed your big toe?
I hit that puppy with no, not the big toe, the second toe. And, you know, I've given up saying any curse words or anything and trying to hit the dog with crutches and all that kind of stuff, but, goodness sakes, and I'm cleaning up my act again. I'm telling you, on a pain chart from 1 to 10, that was a 77.
I know. I've so done that before, and I'm feeling your pain.
Oh, man.
I'm listening, though, at your pain.
And you know, big alligator tears form in your eyes, and then you go, rat-a-frets, and all that kind of stuff.
And then Deanne says from the back room, so, you stubbed your foot again, huh?
You know, there was no sympathy whatsoever.
No.
None. It was like, well, another day at the office, ho-hum, and I thought, ugh.
She probably was giggling.
Yeah, well, she has a warped sense of my values of pain.
You know, that's why I love her so much.
Yeah. You know, that time that steer run over me in the alleyway and broke both crutches off at the handle and I had nowhere to go, she thought that was absolutely better than an Abbott and Costello movie.
I bet you she wished she had a camera.
Oh, man. She was going, where's the camera when I need it? And I'm sitting there all bloody from my left ear and my mouth. I had a tooth chip. My nose was bleeding. And she wants a camera.
At first, she runs up and she's all like, oh, honey, are you okay?
No.
Nope. As she's giggling.
Never happened.
No?
No.
I would have been laughing while I was...
She was laughing so hard I was afraid she was going to have to rewash her clothes the next day.
I love you, Deanne. She's a lady.
Who's on for the pledge?
We've got Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Okay. Rotten, go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done. And by the way, what did you do for your wife's birthday yesterday? Did you take her out to eat?
No.
Well, you cheapskate.
She made her own cake and stayed home and buried herself.
Well, made her own cake?
Yeah.
I'm not even that cheap.
Hey, I offered. What more can you do?
All right. Well, to each his own. Boy, I'm starting to feel sorry for her, and boy, that's a big difference. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
God bless you. Have a good day. Thank you. Michael Rogers Weather is next. Ladies and gentlemen, the number one weatherman in the world, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, sunny 59 for the high, just like yesterday, 38 for the overnight low. More the same for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. There you have it. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
I'm telling you, old Michael's pretty short and succinct and ready to rock and roll. That was pretty good. Thank you, MichaelRogersWeather.com. He's the best. Hey, don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And I've been mentioning about taking your drapes and your curtains in there and getting them clean because you know Thanksgiving is looming right around the corner. This is Christmas and all the get-togethers with the family. You don't want somebody to be standing there at a kind of a Thanksgiving deal and say, "Oh, look at the stain on your curtains." You don't want that. So make sure you take them in there and get them cleaned. At Daryl's Cleaners, they can clean anything, everything at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Stop in and see them today. Also, boy, am I thankful for the work that we have to do early in the morning. And have to get a hold of all the people in Washington, D.C. and New York, etc. SafeLink Internet, thank you for having such wonderful service. Idaho's number one choice in wireless high-speed Internet, SafeLink Internet. Get on the program. Tell them Zeb sent you. I really appreciate them. 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. Talk to Shane and the rest of the crew, and unlimited data, free installations. I'm telling you, it's the best. SafeLink Internet. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I got to tell you, folks, that thank you to a lot of the services that are provided for radio station talk show hosts. I have managed to fall into the good graces of the Media Research Center back in Washington, D.C. and New York. And they have done some outstanding work for me, as have the people at the Daily Caller like Clark Hennessy and some others. And they have provided me with information that is absolutely invaluable. And we're going to be talking about Obamacare right now, and also very insidious type of gathering between Michelle Obama and Toni Townes-Whitley while they went to Princeton. And this whole thing just stinks. I think that's the only word that comes up. It stinks as to how come Toni Townes-Whitley and her company were picked and chosen to line up the internet website for Obamacare. And this whole thing just reeks, and we're going to get into that here in just a little bit, but also I've got to lay out some of the things that have happened on Obamacare since we met yesterday, and we're going to get into that in just a moment, and your calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Rain for Rent, 134 South, 600 West Highway 27 in Paul, with the number 438-5065, 438-5065, with the Rinky Pivot Sales and Service, and the great Rinky rebates. You better call them right now today. And don't forget, they've got the best of people working there that can absolutely take care of all your needs. Frank Jensen, Skip Hilton, Brooks West, they know all about irrigation and water, and they can help you. Rain for Rent, and that's in Paul, 438-5065. Also, real fast, Scott Gano. Thank you, Scott. Boy, his service has been impeccable, and we really appreciate it. We called him up a couple of weeks ago and said, get us on the list for the sprinklers to get the lines blown out so that we don't have them freeze and really have some problems next spring. Well, he was here. He's got it done already, and then he didn't waste a minute. I mean, he just is at a high-low, jumps in the truck, and off he goes. Well, I'm telling you what, if you haven't had your sprinkler lines blown out, do it today. Call him at 438-5065. 431-8733. And if you're considering putting in a new sprinkler system or revamping the old one, yep, 431-8733. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 150 South, 950 West of Paul, 431-8733. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Do a favor to yourself today, politically. Do yourself a favor. Each and every one of us, I'm sure, have some friends that are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. Maybe they won't admit it to you. Maybe they don't espouse their liberal thinking in a community gathering or whatever. But, you know, each and every one of us have some friends that are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. Well, calmly ask them today in a very nice voice, don't try to be antagonistic, how can they support the chaos and the asinine program called Obamacare? How can they support it? Obama lied to America about being able to keep your current plan. That was a blatant lie. And I spent a lot of time last night and again this morning, really early this morning, watching and compiling and listening to all the different tapes of, you can keep your current plan, you can keep your current plan, you can keep your current doctor, you can keep this, that. No. The truth is, almost 2 million people already have lost their plans and lost their doctors already. And the Obama administration, going back through the tapes and going back through some of the interviews and going back through some of the archives of what was said, they knew that that would happen way back in 2010. And they call this the Affordable Care Act, the Affordable Health Care Act. The truth is, costs for Obamacare, in certain instances already, have been found to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times more with less coverage. I watched that lady that was interviewed last night on Greta Van Susteren, and my heart went out to her. I mean, she had a program that she could afford. She had a program that covered what she wanted covered, and now the costs have skyrocketed, and the coverage is less. Now, Obama solicited, and has to solicit, quite frankly, the younger generation to sign up on Obamacare. And they're not doing it. First of all, nobody can get on the website. I know there are certain states that still have had 0 people sign up or attempt to even get on the program. But the young people need to be on the program, and the truth is, if the younger generation doesn't buy it, this is where the caveat comes in that hurts all of us. If the younger generation doesn't buy into Obamacare, all of us are going to have to pick up the tab, which could be over $1 trillion. These are the facts, and this is the truth. Now, Obama had said Obamacare would help cover and lower the debt for this United States of America and actually help the economy. Now, the truth is, it's going to cost a lot more than what they thought, to the tune of, instead of billions, trillions, and it's going to raise our deficit even higher. That's the truth. And the only thing that came out yesterday, as you probably know, they being the Obama administration, did agree to an extension to, I believe it's March 31st of 2014. But what good is the extension to sign up when nothing is working? And I called yesterday and talked to some gurus of websites and everything on the East Coast, and some of the people that work for these various think tanks, and they said, no. This thing has got to be scrapped. This thing has got to be thrown over your shoulder, and it's got to be started from ground zero all over again. It's not salvageable, and you can't put a Band-Aid on this and then go on to the next problem. That's what they told me. Maybe you're sharper about this than I am. I don't know. And the other question I've got right now, and I want somebody to call me and let me know the answer to this, please. For those that have signed up for Obamacare, limited numbers as they are, very small, thousands instead of millions, what now? What now? And what if there is a claim on that insurance with Obamacare? I haven't heard anybody say about what the claim forms are, how you go about getting the claims, how you go about getting remunerated for anything. Nobody has even talked about that, and it's a mess. This is absolutely the biggest mess, I think, that has ever occurred in the United States of America, because it's absolutely going to be the destruction. Peter Morisi said that this morning. He's a noted economist, said that you can't unscramble these eggs. Obamacare has ruined personal coverage in many, many instances forever. Calls are welcome, 436-22441-866-927-4587. Come on, don't be shy. Hey, go get a kiss for a discount this Wednesday, tomorrow at Valleywide Home and Ranch. What? Get a kiss? Well, all right. This one-day-only event tomorrow at Valleywide Home and Ranch features sales, discounts, savings, and, of course, a kiss. Well, I better tell everybody it's a Hershey's kiss, a chocolate kiss, and it tells you what kind of a discount you'll receive on your purchase. So get on over there to Valleywide Home and Ranch tomorrow, Wednesday, at 910 South Oneida. And don't forget, in Rupert, Valleywide, very well known for all the clothes, all the feed, all the animal husbandry items, all the tack for the horses, everything. Valleywide Home and Ranch. Stop in tomorrow and get a kiss for a discount. Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, and by the way, we've just got a couple of days left of hats off to farmers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Soon, Keith said, the popcorn machine will be off, and soon the pop will be running out. But you'll always still get the same great service, that is, at Ramsey Heating and Electric. All you have to do is just call ahead and have your order waiting for you on the counter. Zip in, zip out, you're gone. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459, open 7:30 in the morning to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And don't forget, now's the time to talk about air filters for your furnaces, too. I know, you don't want to think about it, but you better. 57 years of business serving you. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. All right, come on, let's hear the moo of that cow. Somebody get on the line and give me a call, if you would, please. I'd like to hear from you. Now, I want to talk a little bit this morning about Michelle Obama's classmate, and that is Toni Townes-Whitley. Thanks to, again, a lot of great people that work for think tanks. They sent me a lot of information about Toni Townes-Whitley, and she and Michelle Obama were in the Princeton class of 1985. Well, this lady is a senior vice president at CGI Federal, which earned the no-bid contract to build the $678 million Obamacare enrollment website at healthcare.gov. And CGI Federal is the United States arm of the Canadian company that's also had a lot of problems. Well, the plot stinks way back in 1985 when you start finding out more about Michelle, Mama Michelle, and her friends. Now, Michelle Obama and her classmate Toni Townes-Whitley were both students at the university when their groups that they belonged to, the Organization of Black Unity, or OBU, and the Third World Center, TWC, engaged in a confrontation with Jewish students on campus. And both Michelle Obama and this Toni Townes-Whitley were members of these organizations. And they were very, very radical student organizations at Princeton. Now, according to the archives of the student newspaper, Toni McCall Townes-Whitley was chairwoman of the Organization of Black Unity and was the black representative for the Third World Center, along with, ta-da, our future First Lady. And they brought in some of the most radical liberal leftists, including many members of the Nicaraguan and the New Jewel movement in Grenada, guerrillas of El Salvador, the Sandinistas, and many others, and famous black communist leaders in America. Oh, gee, This sounds like an all-American group to belong to. Toni Townes-Whitley and Michelle Obama. This thing is getting deeper and deeper and deeper all the time with the involvement of our First Lady, and I hear somebody breathing. Good morning, Gina.
Well, I was sitting here just reading about this story and doing some background research on the CGI company, and it's kind of shocking to learn that they even failed in Canada.
Yeah.
So why would our United States government hire and contract, no bid contract, by the way, which I think is absolutely wrong. Why would they give this contract over to a company that's not even, based in the United States?
Can I give you an answer?
And is so corrupt.
I'll give you an answer.
I already know the answer. We already know the answer, the buddy-buddy system.
Well, yeah, but the buddy-buddy system goes to the tune of $47 million.
Yeah.
Here's the answer. CGI, as many people are not aware, donated $47 million to Obama's campaign to get elected as president. Oh, gee, Gina, $47 million bucks, and you think maybe that if they want to get a contract later, there's not going to be a little back scratching?
Exactly. And so I'm just sitting here, like I said, doing some research on the company, and they were behind the $2.7 billion failed liberal law Canadian gun registry.
Yeah.
That, of course, brought on an internal audit by Canada. And so it's like this company is not up to snuff. They're not above par. And to be running a website, obviously they don't know how to build and run websites. And for over $600 million just to build this website, come on. We know people here locally that could do a much better job for a heck of a lot.
I'll mention his name and give him a free plug because I absolutely think he's outstanding, John Ellis.
Yeah. So
and when I look at this thing, I'm seeing cronyism, and I'm also seeing something else. I'm seeing something else, and I want to talk about it after the break, but I'm seeing a lot of the terms and the people that both Barack and Michelle have associated with, and it's coming to fruition in light right now, that are nothing more than on a bent towards communism.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay. Don't forget Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn at Jim McCall's farm, right there on the farm, 438-8730. They've got everything, a closeout on the Olympia brand tools, all the pliers, all the hammers, all the everything. They've got it for you. And all the grease guns and the grease and the Bubba ropes. They've got all the Bubba ropes. They've got it all for you. Along they can clean your air filters. Good heavens, they'll save you money. Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn, 438-8730. Hey, it is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. And right now, the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
An Idaho group plans to slowly drop a giant lit-up potato from one of Boise's tallest buildings to ring in the new year. The potato drop would be similar to the famous ball drop in New York City's Times Square. News of the potato drop was welcomed by Idaho's spud industry. Florida has orange, tangerine, and pineapple drops. Georgia has a peach drop. Virginia, a pear drop. Maryland drops a crab to ring in the new year, and a wedge of cheese is dropped in Wisconsin. Having the state most associated with potatoes drop a spud on New Year's Eve is a natural, said Idaho Potato Commission President and CEO Frank Muir. The event is being planned by a group called the Idaho New Year's Commission. They have asked the Potato Commission to help with the event.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. By the way, these are really nice people, and if you would like to take your group over there, whether it's Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, 4-H, or whatever, and schedule a free tour for learning all about recycling, do so. Call them at 678-2321. Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Some really, really nice people. Give us a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, and we're going to talk more about Michelle Obama. Oh, Miss Sweetheart. I'm not so sure. Save on Shells, 1827 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 312-1525. Write that number on the back of your hand or on the dust of your pickup right now, 312-1525. Don't leave things in the back of your truck wide open for everybody to see and maybe get sticky-handed and reach in there. No. Get one of those shells from Save on Shells. You better believe it cover up the back of that pickup. They've got a new line of shells from ARE with many different models. They got a great selection of used shells. And I'll tell you something, I'm very, very happy with their service. I am, because you know what? I saved money. I got the best. I did. I bought one at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland in Burley. All right, now it's your turn. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, do you remember when Michelle Obama, during Barack's first term, she came out with a statement that she was never proud of America until Barack became president? Remember that? I'm paraphrasing right now.
Yes, I do remember that.
And you know, when I look through the history of Barack Obama and his studies over in the Middle East, and the changing of his name from good old Barry to Barack Hussein Obama, and the very left-leaning influence and influences that he went through overseas, not only towards the Muslim faith and religion, but also Islamic value system, if you want to call it that. And then you look at Michelle, and you look at her left-leaning ways tied into these different organizations, the Organization of Black Unity and the Third World Center, and bringing in all these leftist groups and being on the docket with her friend, Toni Townes-Whitley. What does this tell you about Barack and Michelle? I mean, as far as two human beings that call themselves dedicated to being better for America.
They're not Americans. They don't stand for the principles and values of the American people, and they don't uphold the values of our Constitution.
I don't see anything. I don't see any apple pie, Mom, or wave the red, white, and blue. Do you?
No,
I'm not seeing this.
I don't see it at all. And for her to come out and actually, she made that quote back in February of 2008. I actually found a little clip. And to just come out and say, for the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of America. Well, gee, lady, if you're not proud of the country that you live in.
Yeah, and everybody that they've worked with, especially Michelle when she was at Princeton with these two radical groups, they were always bent on bringing in Marxists or communists, and she was, her along with this Toni Townes-Whitley were responsible to bringing in Manning Marable, who, according to many people, was the most famous black communist in America at that time, back in 1984 and 85. When I see all this, it makes me to believe that how dumb, and I'm going to put it this way, how dumb has been the American voter to put this kind of a husband and wife dynamic duo, if you will, into the White House in control of all of us.
I don't think it's to say that we were dumb, because, of course, you know, I actually voted for him. It's not that we were dumb, we were duped.
Well, wait a minute. I'll stay with the word dumb because we've got him in for a second term.
Yeah.
And I will say that there wasn't the responsibility of the voters to really look at and study the insidious background of both of these people.
Exactly.
And you're by all means a very sharp young lady that knows what's going on in the news media and everything. And I don't think you were at all dumb initially. I think you were duped into thinking this man with hope and change and everything else was going to change America for the better with the value system of America.
Exactly. You know, and honestly, over the weekend, I was talking to somebody, and we were actually talking about, you know, the president, and he honestly admitted, and he said the exact same thing that I did. He voted for Obama the first go-round because he was hoping for change. This is not what we were hoping for.
Absolutely.
This is not what we were wanting. This is not what we were led to believe, that the changes that were coming, and the, you know, the rebuilding of America. And he's tearing us apart.
I am very, very concerned with these stories. Now, my question also would be this morning, and there again, you as a journalist, and you did an excellent job while you were attached to television and your reporting.
Thank you.
But there, I draw the line.
Yeah.
Why can a person like you be so objective and so inquiring as to what happened? You want to know more. You want to know the facts. Where is the national media in investigating what's going on here with CGI, their money involvement to Obama and both Obamas, and then also why we had such a devastating effect with Obamacare, because this thing was so amateuristically put together, if you will.
Honestly, I am not sure exactly why. Of course, I worked for the CBS affiliate, and so, we covered, we looked at a lot of national news. Now, the national news carriers, the big major 5 networks, they're not covering this.
Nothing.
You want to find this information, you've got to go to the smaller news outlets.
That's right.
So if you're just trying to get your news out of the newspaper or maybe ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, whoever, you're not going to hear this information.
Absolutely.
You've got to actually do your internet research and actually dig for it. You've got to use certain keywords to find these articles, or you're not going to know.
Now,
I don't understand. Actually, I know exactly why the big networks are not doing this.
They're in bed with the Obamas.
Amen.
And I'm just going to say this, never, ever, ever take anything off the internet, folks. And please, I'm very aware of what I'm saying here, because many people sometimes that are very good friends of mine have been duped into thinking that all that comes across the internet is truthful. No. Far be that from the truth. Mm-hmm. You must check things out. You must make sure that every bit of information you get off the internet can be verified and then re-verified. That's why my lovely wife, and Gina knows this, Deanne spends hours helping me every day make sure that everything is verified from top-notch people, whether it's the head people at the Daily Caller back in Washington or whether it's Media Research Center or whomever. We always verify and re-verify everything so that we don't have egg on our face. But once you learn about these things, you have to sit and question and wonder why, if CGI was a company that gave Barack Obama $47 million in his campaign to become president, why was this company not scrutinized more for their absolutely amateuristic way of putting together Obamacare? And why aren't heads rolling over this?
I wish I had an answer to that. Had the American public known, of course, obviously, nobody knew who the contract was awarded to until after the fact, and now that it's known and research is done, they failed in their own home country. They couldn't provide the same adequate kind of platform that we're looking for, but yet they were still awarded because, they donated so much money to.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick, and then I got to do a whole bunch of commercial breaks here. Sure. When you start talking about this president and his statements of, I was unaware, or I didn't know, or I didn't have that information. Now, early this morning on a think tank, we found out that there are over, I think, close to 20 different clips over the last couple of years where Obama was asked questions by the news media regarding whether it's Fast and Furious, whether it's Benghazi, whether it's the IRS scandal, whether it's the press scandal with James Rosen from Fox News, whether it's the IRS targeting scandal, all of these, and he comes out and he says in every one of these clips, I was unaware, or I didn't know, or I didn't have that information. And my question to you, the audience, is, this man is the President of the United States of America. Everything is supposed to, like Truman said, the buck stops here, at his desk. Do you mean to tell me that we have such an incompetent buffoon in the office that he doesn't know anything with gross negligence for his job? That's my question.
You want my answer? He knows. He's fully aware. He is absolutely fully aware.
Bingo.
But it's just so much easier to say, I didn't know.
There you go.
I didn't get that memo. Gee, I don't recall.
Why is America so gullible into thinking that this man is like Teflon and he doesn't know? He is unaware, or he doesn't have that information. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I'll be honest with you, it's got me so furious with some of the people I talked to this morning. Washington is just a seething teapot right now of people that want answers.
Well, and just with everything else that's going on with the NSA and just, the government shutdown and just now us spying on other world leaders. You know what? I would not want to be a staffer or anybody that works at the White House.
Now, that's another thing, though. You just touched on another with Angela Merkel, of the Chancellor of Germany, and all the other world leaders. Do you mean to tell me, honestly, that this strongest country in the world, with the greatest technology and the greatest protection devices, the best in security, do you mean to tell me that a president of the United States, in name Barack Obama, can stand up there and say he was unaware that they were listening to conversations of Merkel and that information didn't influence how he treated her and how they talked at the G2 summits and everything else? Please, I can't buy that.
I don't buy it either, and it's just, I was reading that this morning because I was actually prepping for the show because I knew you were going to talk about it, and I was just flabbergasted. And of course, new FBI head director, and he's going to stand up and make sure that we have transparency, and he's going to stand up for the American values. If he was put into office by Obama, no, he's not gonna. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness, I'm way late, but I'd sure like to get some calls. Folks, what do you think about this? This is America that is absolutely slipping into an abyss. And into that abyss, it is stewing. It's a cesspool of a lack of responsibility for what America stands for. It's a lack of freedom. It's taking away the rights of America. It's absolutely giving us second best instead of what we deserve, first place. I'm scared about this abyss, and it's all caused by Barack Hussein Obama. Don't forget 4 Paws, 370 West, 200 south of Rupert, 438-4444. Absolutely, they've got everything over there. On Tuesdays, don't forget, on Tuesdays, it's Toy Tuesday, when all the toys are 25% off. And don't forget, if you're finding extra hairballs around the house, did you know that dogs shed their summer coats? Yeah, they do. And your dogs and kitty cats need to be groomed and de-shed. Have to be very careful and articulate that. And be sure and call 4 Paws at 438-4444. 370 West, 200 south of Rupert for all your dog and kitty cat needs. Remember, it is 4 Paws. Hey, it's time for a weather update brought to you by Lennox. Let's have a quick weather update with Michael Rogers, Weather.com.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Yes, it's going to be sunny. Yes, it's going to be a high of about 59, 60. Yes, the overnight low is going to be about 38. Everything is a yes today, just for today. Tomorrow's not here yet, but if you're curious, you're going to get the same thing tomorrow as you're going to get today. So everything today is a yes day. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, Michael. Thank you. Brought to you by Lennox. Home comfort systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. Right from our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. You know, I am shocked. Quite frankly, the phone hasn't rung off the hook because people should have questions. People need to be asking questions. Our securities, our freedoms, everything are on the hook right now with this administration. And to have a president come out and say that he's unaware, didn't know, or didn't get the information about all these major problems that we're suffering right now, whether it's Fast and Furious with a gun running to Mexico, Benghazi, and Benghazi is not going away. I said, and I know that Gina remembers this on the program, I said months and months ago, and if I have to, I will go to John Ellis and get it out of the archives and play it back for you. I said that Benghazi would not go away. I said Benghazi is going to come back and be even stronger as one of the biggest scandals against not only Barack Hussein Obama, but also a devastating scandal, I hope, against the possible presidency of Hillary Clinton. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call. Well, I'm waiting for your call that I'm sure is coming in. Middlecoff, Ford Lincoln Body Shop. Man, I'm telling you, I wish I had their talent. They can make a bad wreck look like it never happened. I'm serious. They strive to make all your vehicle repairs undetectable. Large or small, they can do them all right there at Middlecoff Ford Lincoln Body Shop. My pickup this past summer had a real bad fire. And, boy, we almost lost the truck, the trailer, and the horses, quite frankly. And they did a wonderful job of restoration on my pickup, and I am high on them. Please, over 50 years of accumulated collision experience, they know what they're doing. At Middlecoff Ford Lincoln Body Shop, 1243 Blue Lakes Boulevard in Twin Falls, 736-2490. You call them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. It's incredible to me that there hasn't been a movement to impeach the not only incompetent but treasonous president. The fact that he is not a U.S. citizen to begin with. He was born in Kenya. I've got his birth certificate from Kenya, and it looks a lot more official than the made-up one from Hawaii. And yet nobody wants to take this guy on. Is everybody just that gutless in Congress? I bet I get 3 letters almost every day from some group, with information as to why he should be impeached. And yet our do-nothing Congress refuses to act.
Well,
I don't know how many times I've asked Simpson, and it has to start in Congress, in the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And yet the gutless wonder of Simpson just refuses to do anything.
Well, you and I could go on for hours and hours about this, but I'm shocked, Adrian. I really am shocked that more people aren't outraged over the Fast and Furious scandal with supplying guns to the bad guys down in Mexico, the IRS scandal to where the IRS, such a powerful, venomous, cancerous type organization that can literally destroy human beings and their lives and their jobs, the press scandal, the First Amendment scandal, all of these scandals, and now the Obamacare scandal with this company CGI. Adrian, why aren't people asking questions about Toni Townes-Whitley? Why aren't they asking about her background? Why aren't they asking about the communist value system that both her and Michelle Obama had? Why aren't they asking questions? I don't understand what happened to America and journalism.
Well, yeah, it's not journalism anymore. It's just supporting the president. They cover. He's got cover, and like I've said before, once you get the media, you get gun control, which they just about have in some regards, the education and the health care. You got a dictator, and from all indications, they're gearing up. The Homeland Security is, buying armored personnel carriers and so forth, and in fact, I saw one this last week, and they're having training exercises up in Montana. My son-in-law saw that. So I'm just wondering where we're going with this country, but people would better wake up pretty fast.
I agree with you. Adrian,
we're not ready to lose it.
I agree. God bless you for your call and listenership. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Zeb, I just wondering, it looks to me like everybody's just scared of being called a racist. The groups that are out there now, if anybody comes out and tries to get rid of Obama or say anything bad about him, pretty quick they just get hit with 1 million people saying, "Oh, you're just a racist." I'm just sick of it. I can't stand it any longer. This guy is an idiot, and how come we can't see that?
Well,
just because we're afraid of being called a racist, or are the majority of the American people idiots?
You know what the majority of the American people are, sir? And I hate to say this, but they say 49%, but I'm going to say it's bigger than that. When you have 49% or almost half of the nation on the dole for handouts from the government, whether it's in some kind of a government support system or payment, that means that they're not going to rear up and they're not going to bite the dog. In other words, they're going to sit there like a little Pekingese lapdog, and they're going to take whatever this administration throws at them. And that's where I'm getting really teed off. I haven't been on the dole. I'm not going to be on the dole. And I'm sick as the middle class America to have to pay all the bills for this mess that they're creating back there. And it looks like now middle class America is going to have to bite the bullet and pay for this absolutely insane mess called Obamacare.
Well, you're right, but if you just wake up and look at it, it can't last very long. Pretty quick, there's not going to be any middle-class America to pay for.
That's right.
These dumb stuff.
You're exactly right. But when we start looking at things like Toni Townes-Whitley, and we find out that her and Michelle were bosom buddies in various groups, communist groups at Princeton University, and we know about some of the associates and associations that Barack, her husband, had when he was younger, you've got to start drawing some correlation against these people are not really waving the flag and yelling apple pie and mom. They have a communist bent, a socialist bent that ought to scare us all to hell.
Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared to death. I just hope other people can realize and feel our fear and get on board and do something about this craziness that's going on.
I appreciate it.
I have never got into talk radio. I always feel like, oh, there's always been talk radio. There's always problems going on. But now that I start hearing these things, I'm interested. I want to know, and I want to fix it. If not, I need more people to get on board and help this fight. We've got to do something.
Amen. And God bless you for taking the time to call this morning, sir. Thank you so much, and call us again. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
I tell you what, we've got to do something. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, we've elected people to go back to Washington to take care of these problems for us. Why can't they act like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, some of the others back there?
I agree.
They don't. That's what burns me out.
All right, I'm going to be very blunt, and you're one of my best friends, and I'm going to talk straight up to you because I know you agree with me on this. We've talked privately about this. You know what? Mike Simpson or any Mike Simpson supporter out there, you call me. You can call me now on the air if you've got the guts, or you can call me after the program if you want to lie behind the weeds and do it after the show's over. But Mike Simpson could be very dynamic. Mike Simpson has a lot of control as to what goes on with the EPA, with the money strings. Mike Simpson, our congressman, has a lot of control over what's going to happen possibly on immigration reform. Mike Simpson condemned me and others and call us McCarthyists because I'm worried about the Islamic issues that are going on in Washington with this administration in the appointing of Muslim Brotherhood people to certain positions. Mike Simpson isn't doing anything to show concern.
Mike Simpson is a joke to the state of Idaho.
Well, he's not funny to me. I'll tell you that. Fred, I appreciate your call.
And our other 2 senators, they've got to get busy. They got to stand up and be known back there. They got sure, I appreciate them, what they do, but they got to do more. They've got to be in the limelight.
The good old boy, slap your friend on the back that's a Democrat across the aisle, and then go have a beer with him after the session's over for the day is a bunch of malarkey, and you know it.
Yeah, I do know it, and that's what I'm talking about right now.
All right, Fred, appreciate your call. Thank you, sir. God bless. Gina, do I have another call waiting, or can I do a commercial break quickly?
You can do a commercial break.
Okay, thank you. Don't forget the great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and service is the key word. Absolutely the best in service, the best in brake service, absolutely the best, and of course front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. But the big tire sale going on right now. You better stop in and check out the tires you need for your light truck SUVs like the Wildcat AT2, or for your cars, the Ultra Z900. Absolutely the best in all the tread designs and all the tires for your safe driving. Please stop in and see my friends. And that's Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Lane and Rupert, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Now I realize that I'm walking a real fine line here with a lot of the people that support United States Congressman Mike Simpson. I realize there's a lot of listeners that are probably mad and pounding the top of their radio for my condemnation of Mike Simpson. But you know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to say, oh, he's such a great guy, and try to get him on the program and kissy, all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be very honest in my opinion of any and all politicians. I don't like Mike Simpson. I don't know how much more plain I can be. I think that Raul Labrador has done something up there for us in the northern part of our state that I admire. He is absolutely pulled out of the negotiations for the immigration reform, and they're begging him to come back and basically support it. And to my knowledge, last time I checked, he's not going to go back and coddle up to it. You know, immigration reform is a big, big problem for all of us. And I don't think it's right that all of a sudden we're going to take in with a great big loving hug 11 million illegal people that came here illegally, and now all of a sudden they got pushed to the front of the line just so they can vote Democratic in the 2014 election. I'm not buying this. I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to buy the fact that Michelle Obama absolutely does not have clean hands as far as her background with some very, very leftist groups in college at Princeton. I'm not going to buy the fact that we know anything, or all we should, about Barack Hussein Obama. We don't know nothing about the man, anything about the man. And now he is in his second term, and I'm very concerned as to what's going to happen in the 14 elections that possibly will give him all the power of a dictator. Tell me I'm wrong. Well, we got a lot of things to cover today. Next hour, we're going to have Dan Simmons on from the Institute of Energy Research, and I'm going to ask him how come Idaho has the highest priced gasoline of the 48 contiguous states. There, I bit my tongue. And we're going to talk about energy. Then at 9:30, we're going to talk to Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org about how the teachers' unions, now listen to me on this, teachers' unions have backed convicted sex offenders to remain in the school system and teach our kids.
What?
I'm not kidding. You're going to hear about it at 9:30. You are going to be livid when you hear this story.
I might have to keep my mic off for a minute.
Well, that'd be unusual.
I know.
And then at 10:06, Dr. History. And then at 10:32, there's a new video going around by Hollywood stars, and they're complaining that they're being spied upon by the NSA. But not one time during the video did they mention Barack Hussein Obama. We're going to talk about that.
Spied on by the NSA.
Yeah. More coming. Zeb at the Ranch. Have a great day. Leave the dial here. I'll see you in 6. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 2 on this Tuesday, October 29th. And our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a great big tire sale going on right now, along with some of our friends, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And, of course, our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Absolutely, Western Waste Services always taking care of your projects, helping you. Like if you've got a cleanup project out in the garage or out in the barn, in my tack room, man, I got stuff I got to clean up. Just right for maybe a certain size dumpster. They got dumpsters in various sizes. Fill it up, call them, they'll come and get it. You better believe it. And they've got all the porta potties. And of course, get on the route service for the very best in getting rid of your garbage. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that every day it's really a treat for me to be able to talk about my friends. And Joel Heward, owner-manager of Hanson Mortuary, my friend. And their staff, always committed to upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity of serving you and your family during a very, very difficult time, the passing of a loved one. Well, believe me, they want to meet your expectations and exceed your expectations in serving you. So please remember the number to call, 436-5636. That number again, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we're going to be visiting with a good friend of ours, and he is, I got to get his full title on, he is the Director of State and Regulatory Affairs for the Institute of Energy Research. Whew! Dan Simmons. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Morning, Zeb. Doing well.
Dan, I just don't even know where to start this morning. I am very, very concerned. Actually, I'll replace the word concerned with scared of the Environmental Protection Agency and all the regulations and everything that they can do and might do, especially if the House caves in and we put more Democrats in there that'll do everything and anything that Obama wants. How afraid are you with the IER of EPA regulations and what they've done and might do?
Very afraid. The United States, just, think about this. The United States has the world's largest supplies of coal. No one else is even close. We have about 27% of the world's coal, which, to put that in perspective, we have more coal than Saudi Arabia, as a percentage of the total, than Saudi Arabia has oil as percentage of the total. Mm-hmm. That tells you where we are. We have an incredible amount of coal, and what the administration has done is they've banned construction of new coal-fired power plants because of carbon dioxide emissions. And what they have announced is that they're going to go after existing power plants as well. And if you look around the country, if you look at the states that have the lowest electricity rates, what you find is those states either get their electricity from a majority from coal or a majority from large hydro. Those two sources of electricity you cannot build today. You cannot build big dams like we used to build. And now you cannot build new coal-fired power plants. So this means higher electricity bills, and that's their goal.
Okay, but now stop right there, my friend, because you've opened up a Pandora's box of questions. Coal, now correct me if I'm wrong, coal and the coal industry right now is the largest contributor to the electric grid across the United States of America. So if they're going to demonize coal and they're going to try to absolutely stop any usage of coal, please tell me, my young friend, where are we going to get the power from?
Well, they're not Zeb. You see, when you sit in a building in Washington D.C. with your little buddies, and you have you see what you believe is a problem, you're not concerned about what the actual, if there is an actual solution. You're not. That doesn't even go through your head apparently, because you're not concerned about how we will generate electricity in the future. Just that, the market or something will figure it out. Well, sure, but what is that going to mean? Currently, coal produces about 40% of the electricity that we generate in this country, and if it were to go away, it means we'd have to use a lot more natural gas to generate electricity. I have no idea where we would get all the electricity that we need. And one of the real problems about using more and more natural gas is great, but that's the problem actually. When we use more natural gas to generate electricity, that means we have less natural gas to heat our homes. It means we're going to have higher rates of for natural gas that we use. It also means that for manufacturers that use natural gas to do things like make pharmaceuticals, make plastics, those sorts of things, they're going to face higher prices. And so the benefit that we have had over the past few years of really low natural gas prices, that's going to go away because EPA is going after coal.
Okay, now, but according to some of the cheat sheets that I've read prior to our having you on the program this morning, carbon dioxide emissions in the United States have been dropping every year since 2007. So this balderdash that they try to say about how, we're all going to die because of global warming, actually it's nothing more than a big farce because it's down to like 3.8%, the lowest level recorded since 1994, and we're going without power. They're going to kill the coal industry. What in the world is America coming to? I can see to where we could be taken over at any time by some of the superpowers, China and India, and we're going to be in third or fourth or fifth place.
Well, what China and India understand is that, hey, you know how we grow our how we grow our economies? We need low cost electricity.
That's right.
And that's what they're doing. Now, they have some environmental issues because they can build coal-fired power plants without pollution controls. We're not talking about that. We're not talking that. We're not saying that pollution controls aren't important on coal-fired power plants. They are, but still, even with modern pollution control technology, coal is inexpensive. We have had, as you noted, declining carbon dioxide emissions in the U.S., and there's a couple reasons for that. One is the bad economy. Mm-hmm. When you have an economy that isn't growing, when you have an economy where people, aren't, going around and they're not driving as much because they don't have as many jobs as they used to, well, that's why that's why you have declining carbon dioxide emissions. If the economy were really going, they would probably be increasing. Second of all, we have declining carbon dioxide emissions because natural gas is dirt cheap. Yeah. So last year there was a big bump up in the amount of electricity generation that came from natural gas. This year, what we have is because natural gas prices have increased a little bit, we have more production from coal than we did last year, and so we're going to have we could have an actual increase of carbon dioxide emissions. But you know what? As much as the U.S. is a huge and a large emitter of carbon dioxide on the global scene, what really matters in the future is countries like China. China emits if what people are concerned about is carbon dioxide emissions, the U.S. will have almost no impact on global temperatures because of our carbon dioxide emissions. What will are developing countries, as you said, like China and India, because they're growing much faster while our carbon dioxide emissions have been level and in fact falling the past 2 years.
Dan, I just sit here and I listen to people like you and Dan Kish and others that are on my program, and I'm just absolutely amazed. I'm shocked that the American public has absolutely been so gullible, so naive, and so misinformed and won't do anything to stand up and say, wait a minute, it's looming on the horizon that maybe I can't heat my home next winter. It's looming on the horizon that maybe I can't get enough energy or afford enough energy to go see my kids maybe at Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's looming on the horizon that maybe I won't be able to afford to keep my place, and I might have to look at maybe kind of a communal style living to try to live in a little 8x10 apartment because I can't afford it anymore. Don't people realize how devastating this is if we don't have a progressive energy scheme? No. I mean, that's the sad truth, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we should not have to live our lives always looking over the shoulder of what's going on in Washington, D.C. We should be able to live our lives. We should be able to take care of our family, take care of our friends, take care of our jobs. That's how we should live our lives. I mean, that's how it should be. Unfortunately, it's not, and we have to look over the shoulder of the bureaucrats in D.C. because they want to take over our lives, and to them it does not matter the hardship that they enforce on people out there. It doesn't matter that that people are forced out of their jobs. It doesn't matter that people have to go without just to put gas in their car so they can get to their job if they still have a job. Sadly, it doesn't matter. And the reality is that people shouldn't have to pay attention, but today people have to pay attention, and people have to tell their members of Congress that this stuff is just absolute crap, and we won't stand for it anymore. And we have to tell EPA that we won't stand for it anymore, because it's absolutely wrong, and it's a complete abdication of our role in the world as the largest economic power, as the only superpower today. What these things are doing, what these regulations are doing, is limit our ability to be that superpower, and it will have dramatic consequences down the road. Dan, I don't know how much you've studied this new EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy, But she scares me more, I think, every time I turn around and read a little bit more about her and the EPA and how sinister and how evil the EPA is, and what they can do if they have a complete taking the bridle off and let them run down the track without any stoppage. I'm just scared to death what's going to happen if the House doesn't get their act together and if the GOP doesn't get their act together and try to solidify holding on to the House, because you give Obama that power, and a year from now, you and I might not even be visiting because I'll be living in a cave trying to burn buffalo dung.
Well, it is that. I mean, what is truly scary is how much regulatory authority EPA has, and it isn't just in the issue of regulating carbon dioxide emissions, which, the only reason they have that ability is because of a Supreme Court case that happened to find 40 years after the fact, oh my goodness, EPA can regulate carbon dioxide even though Congress never considered it, and that's a real problem. And what has happened with Congress is, and it isn't just, I mean, it's a problem with the courts. The courts give incredible deference to regulatory agencies, and they shouldn't, but what that means is that Congress has to step up. Our elected officials have to step up, and they have to rein in the regulatory agencies. I mean, it is absolutely wrong to allow these agencies to get away with as much as they can, because it isn't just something like, regulating carbon dioxide emissions, which essentially will be, banning not only coal today, but, could be banning natural gas in the future. But they also looking at, EPA keeps trying to regulate all the water in the United States, because at some point that water runs into the quote unquote waters of the United States, as in interstate navigable streams and stuff, and so they can come on your land to regulate your land because you have a stream that runs for part of the year, things like that. I mean, the EPA is trying to do that. They are incredibly expansive, and they need to be reined in, and Congress has to do it.
I want to get back to green energy just for a quick moment before we have to say goodbye this morning, but I question how much more money the green energy campaign can lose, literally flush down the toilet of my money, your money, everybody's money on solar and wind. It's not working. It's not paying the bills. It's not a turn-on type power that we can rely on. How much more do they have to lose of our money before, again, the American public says, whoa, wait a minute, we can't do this anymore? I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's a fine question, because, the reality is that when people think about wind power, people like the idea of wind power. And that's how it gets sold to policymakers. That's how it gets sold to politicians. I mean, you look at the polling and people like wind power. What people also don't like is the other side of the coin. People don't like that they have to pay more. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that's never presented. And unfortunately, what it means is that there are places in the United States that have like good wind resources. So those politicians, those members of Congress, are really pushing for the subsidies for wind. And it's the rest of us that have to pay for it. And unfortunately, that is the reality. And how much more money that we can flush down the toilet, I have no idea. But unfortunately, it continues to happen, and it will continue to happen. Hopefully this year we will be able to end something that's called the wind production tax credit. That is a credit that we give to wind producers, but the wind producers then sell the credit to people that can actually use it, because the wind farms don't really make enough money to value the credit. And essentially, I mean, this is what is insane. The value of electricity varies over the course of the day. Electricity in those hot summer afternoons is worth a heck of a lot of money. Mm-hmm. On, when people aren't using on a mild night, people don't use much electricity. The American taxpayer, pays wind generators the same whether electricity is super valuable or whether it has almost no value at all. It doesn't matter. And we're paying wind generators the same no matter what. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. We pay them the same if their product is in high demand or incredibly low demand. That's what the wind production tax credit does. It needs to stop. Last year's continuing of this credit will cost the American taxpayer $12 billion.
Oh, my.
And this this type of just throwing money away after, these inefficient, unreliable sources of energy is crazy, and, it has to stop.
We are looking at somewhat of a little poke in the bubble, if you will, of gas prices, and they seem to be coming down a few cents here and there. And I was reading in one of our local papers that Idaho gasoline prices, where I live in the state of Idaho, are the highest in all of the lower 48 states. And my question is, and I ask a lot of people this question, why? Why is Idaho paying so much more for gasoline than any other state in the 48 contiguous states? And we just seem like we're way over and above what other states are paying. Utah, California, we're the highest one in the whole doggone country. Do you have any reason as to why there's so much fluctuation in what we pay?
I don't know for sure. And this is something that I need to research. My guess is that what it has to do is where the gasoline is coming from, and if there's been some outages in refineries that serve Idaho. One of the problems that happened earlier this spring, for example, in the upper Midwest, is there were a couple big refineries that went down at the same time, and as a result, the price of gasoline went way up because they had problems at these refineries. One of the things that's happened in the U.S. is that we have had this large amount of oil production coming out of places like North Dakota, but there's also no good way to get that to get that new source of oil to the refineries that serve Idaho. In the future, there will be, but right now they're just that isn't happening. So we're not getting that lower cost oil to Idaho refineries. I mean, and that's why I think it is. But it's something that I'll have to look at more.
All right. I want to tell you how much I appreciate you having the time to come on our program. Director of State and Regulatory Affairs for the Institute of Energy Research, Dan Simmons, always welcome on this program. God bless and have a wonderful day, and I'll look forward to having you back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We'll be back with another guest in just a few minutes, but first of all, I've got to tell you about our friends at Burley Glass. Oh, my goodness. Yes, sirree, Gentle Ben. Gentle Ben is my buddy over there at 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley, and they've got the atrium windows that can help increase the energy efficiency of your home by 2 to 3 times. 2 to 3 times? Holy cow, you better get a hold of them today. Don't let the heat inside your house go out and warm a bird's nest outside. For heaven's sakes. Keep it nice and cozy where you are. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-1459. You give them a call today. Also, let's see, I've got to take care of this over here, and then I've got to tell you, too, about our friends. What happened to my deal here with Cameron Siemens? There it is. I found it. Lost is found. When you think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, you want to sit down. You want to sit down and talk to the professionals, the people that really understand all the different types of security and coverage, and that's, of course, Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. The number to call, 436-4424. Please, very thoughtful and caring individuals, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. Really good folks. I highly recommend them. Oh, let's see. Hey, tomorrow, you know what tomorrow Wednesday is? It's time to I knocked the microphone almost off the table. It's time for the In the Driver's Seat on Wednesdays, and that's brought to you by Skow's CarQuest Centers in Rupert, Burley, and Heyburn, and co-hosted by one of the nicest people I've ever known in my life, and that's Jeff Poole. He's our answer man, if you will, for Skow's. And don't forget, they've got everything, I mean everything, for your automotive needs at Skow's. I don't care if you're looking for maybe a power-built 61-piece tool set, or if you're looking for all the different ratchets, if you're looking for mechanics wear gloves, or if you're looking for flashlights, spotlights, whatever you need, they've got all your oils. With the change of the season, you got to remember about all the different oils and the different weight of motor oils. They've got all the Prestone and Prestone Dex Cool concentrates, antifreeze and coolants. They've got everything for you at all 3 locations. Skow's CarQuest in Rupert, 323 East 8th Street, Highway 25 Rupert. Skow's CarQuest in Burley, 518 Overland in Burley. And Skow's Truck Center at Exit 211 in Heyburn. I'm telling you, these are the folks that really remember every detail matters at Scows. Oh, my goodness sakes. Yesterday I missed a weather forecast with Michael Rogers Weather, and we're going to have the weather coming up in a few minutes presented by our dear friends at Lennox. But I also want to remind you that tomorrow being Wednesday, we have a special guest coming on to talk about the Idaho Health Care Exchange and the absolute lunacy of Obamacare, and that's at 10:30 tomorrow. We're going to have Senator Dean Cameron coming on the program, so make a note of that and be sure and be listening. Don't forget, too, our friends at Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. They're open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 6. They're open right now today, and they've got all the new snow machines. They've got all the new snowmobiles. That's right, and they've got all the new ATVs for 2014. And they've got the best doggone service department and parts department and accessories. They've got all your accessories. Wow, that is where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, 436-4771, the number to call. Open 9 to 6, Tuesdays through Saturdays. Okay, we are just about ready to have our next guest get on the program with us, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to ask Gina if he's ready to go. Is Kyle on the phone?
Yes, he is.
Thank you, Gina. Gina is absolutely invaluable to us. The job that she does, lining everything up and being the quarterback of the team over there. I'm very blessed to have this gentleman on the phone with us. I depend on him for information when it comes to education and what's going on or not going on in our school systems across America. And with EAGnews.org, this is Mr. Kyle Olson. Kyle, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, I saw you on TV the other day, and I said to myself, I know that young man, always doing a good job on Fox News. But you were talking about something with Megyn Kelly that, honest to goodness, I was eating my lunch, and I dropped everything right in my lap when you were talking about a bill that's been passed so that convicted sex offenders and violent felons can absolutely still be teachers teaching our kids. What's going on here?
Sure. Well, first of all, I apologize for doing that to you. But secondly, what happened is the U.S. House, a group of Democrats actually, introduced a bill that would require local school districts across America to do background checks for applicants for jobs in public schools. So teachers, administrators, support personnel, those types of people. And it really kind of seems like common sense, and in fact it was so non-controversial in the House that it passed unanimously in a voice vote, so they didn't even take a recorded vote. And what was newsworthy about it, though, was the fact that both the teachers' unions, the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers, both sent letters to members of Congress with their concerns. And so, of course, what is so shocking is that they wouldn't just simply come out and say, we support your efforts to try and keep rapists, convicted rapists, child abusers, arsonists, murderers, those sorts of people out of the classroom. And see, that's an important distinction. It's not rumors, it's not accusations, it is people convicted in a court of law. And it just seems so common sense, and yet the unions were griping about it.
I don't understand, and I got to be honest with you, Kyle. I'm sitting here with still a kind of a blank look on my face as to how the Democrats and how the NEA could be this dumb or this naive to think that they're not going to be creating some kind of a problem somewhere in the United States by allowing these convicted felons to actually be around in very private conversations and also private locales in the schools, etc., with children. What is going on here? Why are they allowing this?
Well, because they are staying true to their convictions, and a union's convictions is to represent its members, represent the adults, the people paying the dues, not represent the interests of children, because they aren't the ones paying the dues. I mean, to me, it really is just kind of as simple as that. And so they operate from the belief that everyone deserves a second chance, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But if someone has committed such a heinous crime as those, and they've actually been convicted, it seems to me that we shouldn't be putting children, we shouldn't be giving them access to children. I'm not saying that individuals, they make mistakes. They should have, a shot at a job and gainful employment and all of that. But it should be one strike and you're out when it comes to schools.
Absolutely.
Children's safety.
Absolutely. I was shocked. Well, I wasn't really shocked because I know a little bit of this man's background. Representative Keith Ellison, Democrat of Minnesota, and by the way, I also want to mention that he is a Muslim from Minnesota, opposes the bill because he says the language would ignore the ability of people to overcome their criminal backgrounds by imposing lifetime bans. So in other words, what he's saying is, we can forgive them and just let them have a past discrepancy and they can still be with our kids. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. And again, like I just said, no one's saying they should be banned from ever having a job again. But what we're saying is, if you were convicted of raping a child, or abuse or something very serious like that, it's absolutely what you should not be doing is getting access to children. I mean, that just seems like such common sense, and yet you've got people in Washington that they disagree with that. And I think the reason that the unions are disagreeing with that is because these are the sorts of things that they like to negotiate at the local level, state and local level.
Kyle.
And they don't want the federal government getting involved in this. And so on the one hand, I sympathize that we should not be having the federal government be involved in education. On the other hand, it just seems so common sense that, schools should be, safe places, and we should not be having people with convictions on their record being employed or being hired as school employees.
How are parents going to know? How are parents going to find out that perhaps the teacher, male or female, up in front of the classroom has been a convicted felon, a convicted pervert, a convicted sexual offender? How are parents going to find out?
Well, they'll have to ask, I guess. Many states, it's hard to say most, but I would say many states already have these sorts of provisions. I know in Michigan, where I live, teachers have to be fingerprinted. There are automatic background checks, and so some states are already doing this. But I think it's a good thing to require all schools to do it. I mean, again, it's just simply common sense. And the other irony in all of this is, and we've talked about this before, the zero-tolerance policies that we see in America and the stories that come out of those zero-tolerance policies where, and they especially relate to weapons, where there was a story where a kid bit a Pop-Tart supposedly in the shape of a gun, and he was suspended. Kids wear T-shirts with guns on them. There was a kid that wore a Marines T-shirt, and he was suspended. There have been kids suspended and expelled because of zero-tolerance policies. So we can have zero-tolerance policies for Pop-Tarts and Hello Kitty bubble makers and all of those sorts of things, but we can't have zero tolerance when it comes to convicts having access to our children. I mean, it just seems so common sense, but to me, that it shows how broken the education system is.
Yeah, Kyle, you know so much more about this than I do, but I'm sitting here as a parent. My children are grown up now and have children of their own, but really, parents in general, I mean, I know there's a lot of moms and dads out in the audience listening to this, and I know that my engineer is a young mother that's very concerned for the welfare of her son, and parents are probably sitting there asking the same question. How are we going to know? Is the school going to tell us? Is the school going to provide information about each and every teacher as to their backgrounds, etc.? Or are we as parents and the taxpayers going to be kept in the dark and not know who possibly the bad people are teaching our children?
Yeah, I generally speaking, I think parents are kept in the dark. One of the things that we write about is a concept called passing the trash. That's kind of the insider term. And what happens is if a teacher is accused or school employee is accused of something, molesting students or, whatever the case may be, the school district will look at that as a business decision, and they will say, you know what, it would cost less for us to give that person a check to leave versus actually trying to fire that person. And so they will say, they'll look at that and they'll say, you know, it could cost us probably $500,000 in a legal fight, or we can pay that person $75,000 and give them a positive letter of recommendation to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take their check, they take the letter of recommendation, their case is essentially sealed because that's usually negotiated, and they move on to another district where they do the same thing. That has happened countless times in America. Those are the sorts of things where parents are kept in the dark because the union and the school board and the administration conspire to keep parents in the dark. And so it's that sort of thing that parents have to fight against. They really have to be vigilant and be on the lookout for those sorts of things. And I think I think it just is common sense for parents to be involved in that education process, to get to know their child's teacher, to get to know the principal, school board members, those sorts of people, and just be engaged in that process. I mean, I think that's a parent's responsibility. I think that's their right. And that's what every parent should be doing.
I think you would agree with me, though, Kyle, and you've stated such, maybe not in those terms in the past, but pretty close, that parents, the responsible parents that want to get the information many, many times by school boards, superintendents, and principals are just shined over to the point where they're given minimal amount of information and basically told to go sit in the corner and be a good person and not cause any waves. That's what I think is happening in a lot of these schools, and parents have been basically told so many times, oh, don't worry about it, we'll handle it, that I think a lot of parents, they're just not getting involved anymore.
Yeah, well, I think there are other avenues. I mean, you can go to a local TV station, you can call a talk radio show, you can write a letter to the editor, go to the newspaper. I think there are a variety of ways, social media, there are a variety of ways for people to raise awareness about what's going on. And it might just be coincidence, but it seems to me that the media is more in tune with school issues these days.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in the classroom, these sorts of outrageous stories like, Megyn Kelly talked about, maybe it's just conservative media. But I think generally speaking, people are seeing that, we're spending more and more each year, and yet we're not seeing corresponding results. And we see these sorts of, crazy human resources policies that just don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so I think as that continues to develop, I think people will be more tuned in.
Little by little, inch by inch, step by step, I'm becoming increasingly more wary of Common Core every day, Kyle. I want you to know that up front, because I'm starting not to be at all trusting of government, bureaucracy being in charge of handling education. And I'm seeing more and more the United States federal government becoming more of a dominant factor in education. And the more I read about Common Core, the more I'm liking it less. What are your thoughts quickly before I let you go this morning?
Sure. In fact, our top story today is about it's a pro-union lesson that a parent who happens to be a public school teacher tipped us off about and said, this is just not right. And what we're seeing is that with Common Core and those standards, curriculum companies, textbook companies are rushing out to adopt all of their lesson plans and textbooks and those sorts of things to be Common Core aligned. And we view that as an opportunity for the activists to update the lesson plans to fit their ideological agenda. And that's why we're seeing fourth graders read about unions and strikes and boycotts, and that's why we're reading about second graders and third graders doing the very same sorts of things. And so I agree with you. I view Common Core, it's not going to improve education. What it's doing is it's giving cover for activists to push their personal political agenda in the classroom. Real quick,
tell me what you know about what was happening in the Philadelphia schools, where I heard that, I think the man's name is Howard Zinn, socialist, and wrote a book, and he was really touting in the book, an education book that's going to be used in certain Philadelphia schools, about how great Fidel Castro was as a world leader. What do you know about this story?
Yeah, that's not even half of it. he wrote a book called The People's History of the United States. It is used everywhere across America, and there's no sources. It basically is just his opinion, his interpretation of history, and yet schools, teachers, school boards across America are using his interpretation as fact. And it demonizes the free market system. It demonizes America, our exceptionalism, and that's what kids are reading as history. And so I saw that story too. When you've got whole school districts now implementing that, it's a dangerous indication that we are not going to continue valuing the free market system, America as an exceptional country, and those sorts of things.
Kyle, I absolutely look forward to having you on every time you get a chance. Kyle Olson with eagnews.org. Thank you. God bless you, sir, and I'll have you back in a couple of weeks. Thank you again.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate it. Wow. What's going on in education? I can't wait to get a response from Gina on this in just a minute. But first of all, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to have a weather update brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. And, of course, locally brought to you by Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Here's Michael.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Yes, it's going to be sunny. Yes, it's going to be a high of about 59, 60. Yes, the overnight low is going to be about 38. Everything is a yes today, just for today. Tomorrow's not here yet, but if you're curious, you're going to get the same thing tomorrow as you're going to get today. So everything today is a yes day. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. And, of course, brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Just like to make a couple comments with your last guests, and they were excellent. But, you know, if we don't have cheap energy, that's what fueled this great republic from the very beginning. And so what really made us move, and of course, you're aware, I think, that Idaho Power now is taking directives from the PUC, which is seemingly getting a lot of information from the Idaho Conservation League and the Snake River Alliance about doing away with our coal-fired plants here in Idaho.
Right.
I mean, basically Fort Bridger and Volney and others. I think we get in the summertime about 40% of our power comes from coal, and they're looking to replace that. And I'm saying, how ludicrous is it for them to even think that they're going to replace that with anything else?
You know, Adrian,
and you know what's going on here?
Well, Adrian, you and I have talked about this on the program many, many times, and you're very well versed in, of course, the two words that come to mind, Agenda 21. Right. And all of this seems to be following a pattern to not only dumb down America, but also take down America as far as its value system and its progressive attitude to always provide better for people that have the goals to make this country better. I'm seeing a complete destruction of our economy. I'm seeing a complete destruction of our society. People don't treat people like they used to. People don't care about people the way they used to. Businesses don't care about business the way they used to. And all of this, I think, is from a central plan to make America less. Do you agree or not?
Oh, absolutely. The plan is to make us a third world country, and what better way to do that than to make our energy so expensive. Like I say, I'll repeat this, and I've said it on the air. When I came here 42 years ago, the price of gasoline at Maverick was 23.9 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
20, you know, and so then I knew that the energy crisis was a phony deal because I actually had an agronomy meeting, National Society agronomy meeting in Vegas, and the lights were out. I mean, it looked like downtown Twin Falls. There were no outside lights. It was an incredible scene. But went out to Hoover Dam, and even the guy out there said, oh, it's just to get the energy costs up because they were only operating at less than half capacity.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and then the oil tanks, the tank farm down by Burley and the tank farm out southwest of Twin Falls were full. It was an allocation shortage caused by our federal government.
That's right.
You know, and so it's all been a plan to dumb us down through, and the education thing, And of course, they're using the global warming hoax as the poster for this whole energy thing. And I just said in the paper today that California, Oregon, Washington, and Vancouver, British Columbia have joined some pact on, reducing carbon emissions. How ludicrous is it that we have this much stupidity in this country?
Absolutely. Adrian, I got another call. Thank you. God bless. Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Caller, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Zeb, what concerns me is shipping all this coal out from our country. We're getting rid of our natural resources.
Yeah.
And sometime we're going to need them.
The time is now.
Huh?
The time is not sometime in the future. The time is now.
That's true.
We need a progressive energy system in this country from coal, natural gas, and also petroleum products. This idiocy, and that's what it is from the liberal Democrats that haven't got the IQ of a bicycle spoke, of putting us back into a regressive state, a regressive society, to where people have to basically rely upon a hand cart and maybe a team of mules. This is idiocy because it's killing this whole country's progression.
Yeah, Zeb, why are they shipping millions and millions of tons of coal out of our country, our natural resource, not only coal, but other things?
They're weakening America. I absolutely am adamant that in an administration like Obama's, they don't care about us. It's only the gratuity of money coming back into the till, and if they can do something to denigrate America and bring us down, I think they will. I don't trust these clowns that are looking for a circus right now.
I don't either.
God bless you, Fred.
I don't either.
Thank you for your call. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Got to pay some bills quickly, and then I want to talk to Gina about that because I know she was listening intently just a moment ago. Don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and they've got all the Flex Steel Furniture, America's seating specialists are back right there at Lee's Furniture. All the different selections. You're going to love the furniture. It is first class. They've got everything, all the carpet needs. They've got all the floor coverings. They've got everything for the beautification and comfort of your home. So please stop in and talk to the professionals today, and they really do know comfort and beauty at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You see them today. Gina, I wanted to get you involved a little bit because I had talked to you about this story earlier this morning, but are you there by your microphone?
Yep.
I am so adamant that even now that I'm a grandfather and I don't have my children directly in the school system, if I found out that a teacher was teaching my grandchildren that was a convicted rapist or child pervert or whatever the case might be, I shudder to think to the actions that I might take to get that person out of that classroom.
Agreed, and I think that's where it's, like the guest had said, we need to be a little bit more proactive as parents. With the school, with the teachers, getting to know our teachers. I know all of my son's teachers very, very well. And so it takes a very proactive and active parent to know who is with their child at all times.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Therein lies the question, though, that I posed to Kyle. As a parent, whether you're in a big suburban area of maybe Mundelein, Illinois, and outskirts of Chicago, or whether you're in an outskirts of L.A. or in L.A., a lot of times, how are you going to find out the information if it's not released to you? You might think that Joe Smith is a good guy, but in essence, he might have been a convicted rapist.
That's when, now, here's something that a lot of people don't know. Convicted sex offenders have to register wherever they move. And the registry is posted for whatever district it is on the website. All you have to do is type in. So I just typed in Idaho Sex Offender Registry, and I pulled up Rupert, just as an example, 30 registered sex offenders within the city limits of Rupert.
Near your children.
Near the kids.
That's right.
So as a parent, you need to be a little bit more proactive, and you need to actually search out this information because Most often, the school district probably either they don't know, they didn't do a proper background check, or they're not going to release that information. So as a parent, we need to be a little bit more proactive.
But you
So
heard
get online and look.
But you heard what Kyle said, though. He said that they know, the teachers union basically knows, and even, and this is really repulsive to me, Representative Keith Ellison, Democrat of Minnesota, said that he wants the ability of people to overcome their criminal backgrounds by imposing, he doesn't want any lifetime bans.
I'm sorry, but I don't see how anybody can overcome the pedophilia. You don't overcome that. I think, honestly, for that, the way they overcome that is to stay within the judicial system and stay behind bars.
When it's our kids, everything has to be Simon Pure.
Yep, it does. And so that's why I say if parents are concerned, get on and look at the local sex offender registry for whatever city that you're in. And you can find it here in the state of Idaho. It lists every city, and it lists pictures and, their birth dates and where they live and, when their convicted date was. Everything. It lists everything there. So if parents want to know, the information is there. You have to look for it.
I will tell you this, Magic Valley, and especially over where you live in Rupert, I would hate to be that person if Gina Jameson was turned loose on you, and if it was her son in the classroom. I guarantee you, as far as I'm concerned,
go to prison. I have no problems in going to prison.
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm saying. That's the issue that I'm saying. When it comes to our kids, it should be absolutely Simon Pure.
Yep. And, when you were talking about Common Core, and this is, I'm with you. I'm not impressed with Common Core. The state of Washington did something when my daughter was in junior high or elementary and moving on into junior high, where they started to move towards standardized testing, which is what Common Core basically is. They're trying to teach everybody the same thing. Mm-hmm. However, it's not good for the students, because all of the teachers are doing now is they're just teaching for the test, because the teachers are graded on the test and how their students do. And so if you have students that are falling behind because they don't quite get what the teacher is trying to teach, it's because the teacher is teaching towards the test and not the complete full picture. I am not a fan of Common Core at all whatsoever, period, point blank.
You used to be, though.
No, I never have.
Well, you and I had a discussion months and months ago where you said you were leaning and listening and learning as much as you could about it, because you hadn't at that time formed an opinion yet, pro or con.
Yep.
And I remember that conversation.
2 and 3. Yep.
But when I take a look, and I'll stand up against this with anybody because I've been reading and studying all I can. When you look at the terminology, just the terminology, Common Core. The word common tells me all the same: bland, vanilla education, not to exceed, not to reach for the stars, not to have the affordable goals that'll propel them to use all their God-given talents.
It is the goal to dumb down America, to stop critical thinking, because critical thinkers are the ones that are going to ask the tough questions and are going to bring forth information that everybody else doesn't want you to know.
I agree. Thank you very much for your input. I'll take it in just a minute. Don't forget Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, the new home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. We enjoy it over there. I love it. The people have been so nice. The food has been delicious. At 800 North Overland in Burley, 678-1304. The tagline is Perkins, where they believe in being best buds with your taste buds. And oh my goodness, the pies and the cookies and the muffins and the breakfasts and the dinners and the lunches, and everything is fantastic. Please stop in. You'll see what I mean. Perkins Restaurant and Bakery, 800 North Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and we're going to keep you posted as to the date of our next Lunch Bunch gathering. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
You just made me hungry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Now, the reason for my call is Gina's point is well taken about the registry for sex offenders. The hole in that belief is that everybody registers.
Yeah.
Now, I know from personal experience that sometimes that doesn't take place. That's just a comment I wanted to make.
Sir, I appreciate your input on this. Thank you so much, and always a good day to hear from you. Thank you, sir. God bless. Have a good one. I just think that if the NEA is looking at this as purely a monetary thing of getting more in dues money, and saying, well, you made a mistake, it's no big deal, we'll just let you teach, go on in the future. Baloney. I think there should be more regimentation. There needs to be more purification, if you can or will, regarding our kids. And like I said earlier, I don't think you can ever be too Simon pure in education for our youngsters. And then I talked to Kyle a little bit about that mess in Philadelphia, to where they're trying to bring into the classroom books that are preaching socialism and communism and praising people like Fidel Castro over many people that have been in this United States. They forget them, but they're praising somebody like Fidel Castro. I ask you, please, parents, find out what your kids are being taught. Look at their textbooks. Read their textbooks. Find out about their class assignments. Be the squeaky wheel. If you don't like it, go right straight to the superintendent or the principal and say, I want time with you.
Trust me, I do that.
I know you do. Believe me. And trust me, I'm glad I'm not a superintendent.
Honestly, Kennedy goes to a great little school, and I chose this school because, of just their core value. But as a parent, you really do have to be proactive about
Absolutely.
Who your teachers are,
and what's being taught.
And what is being taught. I look at my son's homework every single day. Of course, mind you, he's in the first grade, and he's learning math and reading.
Yeah, but he's in the most formulative age of his career.
It is, and so it's so important for parents and even grandparents who are taking care of their grandchildren now. Be proactive, be involved, because you are your child's safeguard.
Absolutely. Hey, I got to run to the news, and then we'll be back. Dr. History's coming up next hour, along with then James Herson, attorney from California. Don't go away. See you in 6. Oh, my. It is kind of foggy outside, to be honest with you. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor. I'm Zeb Bell. Thank you very much to the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, yes, sirree, the very best, with a great big tire sale going on right now at all 7 locations. Also, our thanks go to some of our great advertisers, and that's, of course, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly and the crew at 734-6969. Don't forget the Chadwick Sports Grill at 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, have they got good food? Oh, have they got nice people? They've got daily luncheon specials Monday through Friday for just $5.95, and they've got senior citizen dinner specials Monday through Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m., only $5.95. And today they've got ground round steak with mashed potatoes, veggies, and soup or salad. Gonna be good. Always is. At the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. He worked as a newspaper boy in Transylvania. His editor looked him in the eye one hallowed eve and told him to go visit with Dr. Dracula up on what they called at that time Haunted Hill. This young man, this historical preservation doctor history, is now with us to tell us all about Dr. Dracula.
Now I wish I had a Halloween story.
Oh, darn.
Sorry to disappoint you. How you doing, Zeb?
Not too bad, Doctor. No, you're not Dr. Dracula, even though, never mind, I won't go there.
I won't go there.
What's happening in your world?
Well, I got a story today that, every so often I come up with something that nobody's ever heard about.
Oh, really?
And this is another one of those.
Oh, good. Last week was a good one.
Yeah, these guys, again, if anybody's ever heard about these guys, I'll be really surprised.
Okay, shoot from the hip. Go, Wyatt.
All right, well, I'm going to talk about a family called the Green family. Now, that doesn't put a lot of fear into your heart if you hear the Green family and the Green boys, but these were, they were tough and they were dangerous, but they actually had a spark of sympathy for people who were having a hard time, and this story actually comes from a neighbor boy that remembers an encouraging hand on the shoulder, even if more frequently that hand was wrapped around the butt of a gun.
Oh, my.
So we're going back into the 1890s, into the Oklahoma territory where Will Rogers grew up. And maybe you've heard of some of these places, Ulaga and Talala.
Yes.
In territory?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this was the home of a trio known as the Green Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Old Man Green, the boy's father, had a little spread about 6 miles from a place called Collinsville. Now, the Green place was on a long, deep, narrow lake that still bears the name of Green. And it was kind of an ideal location for a spread, which was soon suspected by some of the neighboring ranchers of growing a little too fast for the natural offspring of a few cows that the family owned. Now, this was before the boys grew up, but, you know, sometimes there's orphan cows out there that need a home. And so Mr. Green just was, you know, being kind, I guess, that way.
They just happened to find an open gate.
Yeah, you know, it's just being neighborly.
Yeah.
But so anyway, by the time the brothers were good-sized kids, their mother had died, and their father had married a full-blooded Indian woman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she took these boys in, and she loved them. She took care of them. She was really a great stepmother. But anyway, the three boys grew to manhood, and they all worked on a big ranch called the Halsell Ranch. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, Seb.
How do you spell it? Halsell? L?
2 L's on the end, yeah.
I don't think I have.
Okay, well, anyway, this was a pretty big spread in the 90s for a while, but it did eventually pull out. But the Green Boys, really after they had worked on the ranch and the ranch went under or sold, they never really had a steady job, and they just kind of wandered around. But there again, when cattle began to disappear, you know, a steer here, 2 or 3 there, a few calves missing from different ranges, suspicion was directed to the Green Ranch, which, again, it continued to prosper. Just don't know how. But, you know, they were likable, accommodating boys, the Greens were, and the ranchers kind of hesitated to openly accuse them because they really had no proof that anything illegal was going on. But rumors persisted, and eventually the Green Boys were left pretty much alone by neighbors and ranchers and the cowboys. But it was said that there were strange men that used to come by the Green Ranch, men with, as they are described, low-slung guns and well-oiled holsters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that can kind of give you an idea of some of the people that hung around the Green Ranch.
You're all-American types.
All-American good old boys, you know. And but nothing was ever pinned on the Green Boys.
No.
Although in early 1897, the oldest boy, Bill, had his first charge filed. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But this story is told by a guy named Mr. Owen Smith. And now, he was a resident of Collinsville.
Mm-hmm.
And he told this story when he was 88 years old. And that's what I'm taking this story from. And when he told this story, he said, I was just 14 years old when I first met the 3 brothers. There was Bill, Ed, and Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bill was the oldest, Arthur was the youngest, and he said, my dad, Pa, he left Alabama to immigrate to Indian Territory. He said we traveled all the way in a covered wagon, camping wherever we might. And he said nighttime would come, and they'd just live off the country. He said all you needed back then was salt, sugar, a little bit of bread, and you just killed your meat on the way.
Right.
So he said we camped one night at a big spring in what is now Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Tulsa at that time was nothing more than just a spot in the road, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He said we pulled out the next morning, heading across the plains, heading north, and it was just wide open rangeland. He said we met a cowboy who stopped to visit, and he found that Pa was hunting a place to squat, and he told him that about 3 miles straight down ahead there was a little squatter's shack that the people had moved out just a few days before. He said, well, they starved out, and he told Pa, he said there was a spring about a half a mile from the shack, and that people had hauled water for the household in a big barrel by sled, and that they'd left the sled in the barrel, the cowboy told him. So he said it was just about sunset when we pulled up to that little shanty, and nothing but the rolling prairie all around us, nothing else, not a house in sight, no road. So he said we were home on the range. So
they ought to make a song like that.
Nothing but a few spuds and some meat and a little bit of wheat, and that's all they had.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, next morning, he said, my first job was to hitch one of the horses to the sled that the squatter had left and go down for a barrel of water, and he found the spring, and it was springtime, and, you know, it wasn't too bad. There were quail around, and so they were able to get by. But in spite of the game being so abundant, he said, we were ragged and half-starved all the time. He said, Pa never made much of a living. There wasn't much to do but be a cowpuncher, and he said, Pa was no cowpuncher. He said, us kids all found something to do, and those who were old enough to work, and as you know, Zeb, back in those days, being old enough to work, it came mighty young back in those days. So, and here's where he starts in. He says, here's how I met the Green Boys. He says, I'd seen them passing not far from our shanty all spring, but I'd never met them until just before haying season. He said, well, they rode up to our gate, and they visited for a little while, and suddenly Bill Green asked me if I'd like to have a job as water boy over at the ranch for the hay crew. And the next day, he said, I was over there at daylight. He said, I would ride a pony with water jugs hanging all over, and I'd go from one crew to the next all day long, and the Green Boys would always tell me what a great job I was doing. He said they were mighty good to a ragged, half-starved kid, and he was grateful. Now, one day, the Green Boys came by at the shanty, the old shack, and they were driving a cow that had just had a calf, so obviously the cow had milk, and Bill Green went to Pa, and he said, Pa, you need to take this cow, milk it. He said, your kids need some milk. And he said, I don't like seeing little kids without milk. Well, his ma was glad, obviously, to have milk, and this guy, the young man, he said, I was so glad to have bread and milk and butter, and it just made a whole bunch of difference in their lifestyle. Well, that fall, several of us came down with typhoid fever, he said, and Mrs. Green, the boy's stepmother, came over, and she just stayed with us. She cooked, she washed, she ironed, she bathed us in cool water, and and it was hauled from the water hole by one of the Green Boys after they had already put in a full day on the range. And he makes the comment, it says, just try to get someone to be that neighborly nowadays.
Amen.
And he says, I'm telling you all this because I want to show you that the Green Boys were not all bad. No one ever is. He says, you can't find better neighbors than the Green Boys. Well, after this big wholesale spread pulled up stakes, like I said, the Green Boys just kind of drifted for a couple of years. Then Bill got arrested, but he got out on bond. But after he got arrested, it kind of made a change in him, and he didn't seem to care that anybody thought maybe he was an outlaw. The other two boys kind of followed his example, and in fact, they kind of started raising all kinds of heck all over that range. Anyway, they were still the friends, though, and they helped in a lot of ways. He says, one time we lost a couple of nice young heifers, and we couldn't afford to lose anything at that time. And he said the boys rode by, and Pa told them about the heifers, and, and he said they'd keep an eye out for them. Well, that maybe they just strayed. Well, the next morning the heifers were back in the pen, and the Green Boys had found them and brought them back.
Yeah, are they sure they were the right ones?
It doesn't say that.
Oh.
They were just a couple of nice heifers back in the pen. Maybe they were actually a little fatter. I don't know. But, anyway, so there's an old man that had a general store, and he was robbed, and he swore it was the three Green Boys. Well, the boys were getting arrested now and then for everything that happened. If cattle were missing or anybody got robbed, well, everybody just said, well, the Green Boys did it. And now at this time, Bill, the oldest, was only 21.
Oh, my.
And then Ed was a little younger, and Arthur was only 17. They weren't very old.
Uh-huh.
So the ranchers got together and decided to end it once and for all. Even though every one of them were friends with the Greens, a lot of them would take their mares out to Old Man Green's place because he had some real nice stallions out there. But anyway, the whole country was kind of on edge about this time, and there'd been several unsolved killings. There was kind of a danger feeling that hung around over the range. Well, finally the ranchers got one of their own men to start playing kind of a spy type deal here. He started hinting around that he'd like to throw in with the Green Boys. And pretty soon he'd cooked up a deal for them to all rob a general store. Well, he worked up the whole deal, and then he tipped off the ranchers and the U.S. Marshals. So basically they got together, they ate supper, then they rode hard for a day to get to this store. Well, in order to get to the store, they had to ford a river, and it had a bunch of logs and one thing around it where they were going to cross. Well, this rancher turned outlaw, kind of must have started feeling a little nervous because as they approached the river, or this ford, he knew that behind these logs were a bunch of men, ranchers, posse, and all with guns pointed their direction. Well, Bill Green and the rancher were in the lead, and Arthur was behind, and as they waded into the river to ford across, the horses wanted to drink, and while they drink, Arthur said he thought he'd get a drink too, and this actually probably saved his life. He got off his horse, he took a drink, mounted, and started up the steep bank, and the others were just a few feet ahead of him, and all of a sudden, all heck broke loose. Bill and Ed Green fell from their saddles. They were dead before they hit the ground, and the rancher, he just spurred his horse on to join the posse. Now, Arthur, the youngest, he was struck in the upper part of his chest and shoulders, and he fell off his horse. So, anyway, the two Green boys that were dead. They were loaded into a wagon, and along with their badly wounded younger brother. And the wounded boy they took him into the local town, and they took him into an old hotel. And anyway, the doctor came in, and after a while, he gave him a big dose of morphine, and he actually got well. And but he did end up serving a long term in jail.
Mm-hmm. And then he became a politician, is what you're going to tell me. I bet you any money.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Well, word was sent out to the greenhouse, the green place, and Mr. and Mrs. Green came driving in a wagon, and old man Green just looked at his two boys that were dead and just broke down. I mean, he was weeping and crying. And now Mrs. Green, this is a little different. She was a different case. She went out into the street, and there was nothing in the world that she didn't call that posse.
Uh-huh.
In fact, she dared them, one or all of them, to come out into the street and fight her.
Uh-oh.
She said she'd take them all at once or one at a time, and that her boys were killed, unfairly, and she'd take on that whole posse. Well, obviously none of them did, but anyway, so they made a pine box, and actually, kind of an interesting way, they made it big enough to put both boys in the same coffin and buried them in the same grave.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, but that's the way Mr. and Mrs. Green wanted it. They wanted them both buried in the same pine box, in the same grave.
Oh, be darned.
So that's the story of the Green boys, and you can make your decision if you want to think they were good boys turned bad or bad boys turned good. But at least according to this guy, this Mr. Owen Smith, they helped him and his family. Like I say, they gave him a cow that would supply milk for him. They found their lost cows. They found work for this guy when he was just a young boy.
Well, what about the boy Arthur that lived?
Well, it doesn't say. It just says that he spent quite a long time in jail, and don't really know what eventually happened to him.
Well, now, there you go in your continuing education program of what happened to the Green Boys in the Old West. That's something that you need to pursue.
I know. I should anticipate these questions you come up with. But I didn't anticipate that one.
But, a lot of the Old West stories and the Old West characters, etc., a lot of them that were supposedly bad guys really had a good streak. Look at Jesse James. Look at Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
All of them kind of the Robin Hood syndrome, if you will.
Yeah. Well, the darker side of the mining towns, the brothels, the madams, were almost always the ones that helped out somebody that was down and out or sick or needed food. So you're right.
Yeah, I want to hear you pursue that story a little bit.
I'm not going any farther.
I didn't think so.
But, you're right. There's a lot of... then you can get into some people that were just bad to the bone, and they were...
But look at John Wesley Hardin. John Wesley Hardin is a classic case of a guy that I don't know how many people he shot and killed during his wild times down in Texas, but while he was in prison one time, he started studying for the bar examination to be a lawyer, and he became a lawyer, and he could have straightened his whole life out, but it didn't work. They ended up shooting him anyway.
Yeah. Well, like I say, prison tends to soften some of these guys, or in some cases, I think it trains them to be better outlaws when they get out.
Yeah. But I thought sure that because it's Halloween, you would probably try to scare me to death this morning.
You know, I should have thought of that, because I do have a book about ghosts and stuff like that from the Old West.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't you do one next week, and we'll just pretend that it's not yet Halloween?
Okay, I'll pull that book out.
You mean it's kind of a real spooky kind of a storybook about the Old West?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, about people that died or their house burned down and they were in it, and their ghosts tend to still wander in it. I'll pull that book out.
Do you believe in ghosts, Dr. History? Or are they past patients of yours that come back because they didn't want to pay the bill, or what's the deal?
No, I don't believe in ghosts.
You don't get scared at night when you're walking by a graveyard?
Well, let me put it this way. When I'm gone, my wife gets the fireplace poker and keeps it by her bed in case... But that's not on account of ghosts.
Well, there's a lot of comments I could make there, but I don't think I will. I was one of these kind of kids growing...
For next week, see if I can find some ghost stories for you.
When I was growing up, I was one of those kids that could not stand those movies that were on Saturday night, you know, that ghost theater or haunted theater and all that kind of stuff, with the mummies, with John Carradine and Bela Lugosi, and who played the other one? Who played Frankenstein? I can't remember his name right now. But anyway, all those old ghost movies, you know, they scared me to dickens.
Yeah, and now you watch them, and they're fun to watch, and they're really kind of funny.
I don't know. I still, at my age, I'm 66, and when that coffin comes open in the original Dracula, and he goes... Good evening.
Yeah.
That still makes the sweat curl on my brow a little bit.
But when you can see the fishing line holding the bat up in the air...
Oh, yeah. Some of those were really good, weren't they? Yeah. That's true. The fishing line holding the bat up and all the mistakes. Like you could see in one movie, I think it's... The Mummy, the original Mummy. I'm not going to be held to this, but I think in one scene where the girl wakes up and she's in the bedroom and the mummy's coming down the street, you can see the microphone over her head.
Oh,
yeah. Little things like that make to take away a little bit of the scariness, you know.
Yeah. But they're fun, and I don't like the scary movies. I don't go to scary movies now because I don't know. I don't like those blood and guts type. What do you call it?
You don't have to go to a movie. All you got to do is read more in the newspaper about Obamacare. That'll scare you to death.
That's when my hair is turning gray.
I got to run, but thanks. Have that story next week. That'd be a good one.
I'll see what I can come up with.
All right. Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner. God bless you, man. Thanks.
You have a good day, Zeb.
All right. Thank you much.
Bye.
I always enjoy that, man. Hey, thank you very much. And don't forget, School Days in Cassia County is brought to you by two wonderful businesses. And I'm going to talk to you about one right now, and that's Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Outstanding doctors, outstanding medical service to you and your family. For over 14 years, the Ambulatory Surgery Center of Burley has saved area families thousands of dollars as they've received outstanding medical care. A first-class medical facility located at 1344 Highland Avenue, and the number to call, 677-8888. You be sure and contact them today. And don't forget, too, they are one of the sponsors of School Days in Cassia County, heard on Thursdays right here on Zeb at the Ranch, along with A Child's World, 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. Oh, they got all the extra different and very cute baby items arriving every day, and they've got all the infants, the quality shoes and the school uniforms and the clothing. They've got everything, along with all your holiday shopping for games and toys and books and arts and crafts and puzzles, and remember, free gift wrapping too, and layaway at A Child's World, 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. And both Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World are sponsors of School Days in Cassia County. Well, what's coming up next half hour? We are going to have Hollywood reporter and attorney and author James Herson on the program, and he's going to be discussing a brand new video that's out, put together by many of the Hollywood stars, if you will, that are really upset and they're complaining that the government is spying on them. James is going to tell us all about that. You stay tuned. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes.